kind of a myth busting that everybody comes in, especially international, knowing exactly what they would like to do. Vision is we thought students would start on campus in the winter and then perhaps start remotely in the fall, building a cohort. What we found is that the students weren't as interested in starting remotely. Just a small percentage of them said, yes, I'd like to start remotely. They preferred to just go all in and start in the winter. It is not an inexpensive housing market. How's that?
Hi, I am Sashwati Sarkar and you're watching The Times of India. International students are navigating a storm today. Shrinking post-study work windows, visa vetting of social media and a steady rollback of DEI programs across US campuses. At University of California, Santa Cruz, how are these shifts being tackled on the ground? Are AI tools now deciding who gets in? How safe is your OPT dream? And when $6 million in DEI-linked research vanishes, what support truly remains? In the face of federal rollbacks on DEI, does institutional support still mean anything at all? Joining me today for this discussion is Michelle Whittingham, Associate Vice Chancellor of Enrollment Management at UCSC. With decades of experience in shaping international enrollment, she is here to answer questions many students are too afraid to ask. Michelle, thank you for joining us in this show. And let's start with the questions right away. So, Michelle, UC Santa Cruz has always stood out within the UC system for its academic ethos and its connection to the environment, right?
Yes.
But in the last 5 years, what specific academic programs or research strengths have really fueled spike in international students in UCSC?
Yes, definitely. There's a lot that attracts students to UC Santa Cruz, and definitely beyond the majors, and we might get to some of that later. But as a whole, the international student population is really highly interested in, that will not come as any surprise to you or probably any of your viewers, is computer science, as well as, I know, right, business management, economics, psychology as well. And then
Psychology, that's interesting. These subjects are very considered to be very low ROI. So despite that, if you see a lot of interest in psychology, that is surely an interesting nugget of information.
Yeah. And one of the things to keep in mind too is that by region it varies. And one of the populations, of course, our largest population happen to be students currently from China. India has been growing, but one of the majors or areas of interest that people don't think of often, and even with international students, I think there's a perception that everybody knows exactly what they want to study. And you might be interested that there are many students, not just international, but others that come in like undecided. So they have an opportunity to explore in their first couple of years and then choose a major. But I think it is kind of a myth busting that everybody comes in, especially international, knowing exactly what they would like to do. But we also have, it's not just those with the top areas of interest, but we have a lot of students too that don't have as many numbers, but are highly attracted to Santa Cruz in areas like astrophysics, genomics, and some of those other programs that the volume might not be there, but those world-renowned programs that people do know worldwide.
So you oversee enrollment management at UC Santa Cruz. How exactly is UCSC using predictive analysis and AI tools to forecast international enrollment trends, especially from countries like India and China?
Yeah, we monitor a lot of different trends. And so it is, you have to be, before you can predict and forecast, you've got to look back, right, to see what those trends have been. We rely heavily on data from IIE, the Open Doors. It's probably something you're quite familiar with, as well as the University of California data and our campus data. And then our team that really oversees a lot of this work, we're working with partners internationally. And like out of India, for example, is KIC Univassist. And then I don't know if you've heard of the company Grok. They also do a lot of predictive analytics and really partner with us. And then, of course, our staff are going to amazing international conferences like the International Career and College Counseling based out of India, IACAC, an International Association of College Admission Counselors. So we're really relying on others too who are also doing this type of work. And then, as you know, with data, you have to do a tremendous amount of environmental scanning because your data can tell you one thing, but as we all know, things can change very quickly.
See, number we all know there's a very popular saying that numbers never lie, but data can be but data can be misleading at times. It doesn't lie, but it misleads at times. So some human intervention of interpreting that data has to be mandatory.
Absolutely. Yep. And we know one of the things I keep in mind, especially in the work that we do in enrollment management, is that there are humans behind these numbers. There are students, their families, their communities. And so humans are a little less predictable than some of the other things, and especially when other humans are intervening in different items. But yes, so we do take data as one indicator. And, I love myself, I get to spend time on the ground with my team, and hearing directly from students and families and educators to me is also exceptionally valuable.
Thank you for explaining this so well, Michelle. Michelle, let's talk numbers a bit. In today's world, economy, ROI, as you know, is a huge concern for international students. Based on your internal data, what proportion of international undergrads from UC Santa Cruz are landing internships or OPT placements in their fields?
Yeah, I reached out to our Division of Global Engagement, and right now we have about 400 students that are on OPT or the OPT STEM extension. And so my experience is if the students want to participate in this, they're able to participate in it. And so, of any graduating class, I don't have the percentage of any graduating class, but I would say it's very high because, as you said, the ROI students want, and families, it's not because many families are contributing to investing in the students' education. And so I've worked with many, many different students that have had different types of OPT right here in the Bay Area or down in Southern California. So I feel like it's one of those old adages where there's a will, there's a way. And so our Office of International Student Scholars, their scholars and services, they're really focused on helping to support the students, as well as our career services offices, and of course the faculty in the academic departments. So they have kind of a team of people on campus that help them achieve their goals.
So, UC Santa Cruz offers a winter admission pilot with the first year transition academy, right, to support media admits?
Yes, yes.
So, can you walk us through how FYTA works academically, especially for international students?
Yes, no, thank you. And I'm so impressed with the questions that you've done your homework. This was a program we,
Yeah, I always believe in doing my homework.
I love
I
it.
do that.
I
True.
love it. I was very impressed, I have to say. And we launched this program. Actually, one of our students from Jaipur, I've worked with her because I'd love to get the student experience and what this is like. And so last fall of 2024, we didn't have enough capacity in the fall because we're balancing, right, our classroom capacity, our housing capacity. And so we decided to pilot this program where students could come in the winter because we have students graduating. So there's constant movement. And so we really, what the vision was, is we thought students would start on campus in the winter and then perhaps start remotely in the fall, building a cohort. What we found is that the students weren't as interested in starting remotely. Just a small percentage of them said, yes, I'd like to start remotely. They preferred to just go all in and start in the winter. And so we really, based on student feedback and student preferences, we discontinued the fall portion this last year. And then luckily we were able to accommodate all the students. Well, they still came in the winter. They just didn't have the fall start remotely. So it really gave them an opportunity. We would much rather have given them the winter start versus no option at all. And so working with students and families, we found that this was very successful. And then what they do is many of the students, like this young woman, Rashri from Jaipur, she plans on taking summer courses. So then by the next fall, there's all kinds of flexibility. So they're not behind at all curricularly. So our curriculum is set up that they're not starting behind in any way, shape, or form. And so we look at the curriculum, we look at the housing and the student services to be able to transition them in a highly effective fashion.
This was not part of my questionnaire, but I would like to know, you offer on-campus living accommodations to students, right?
Yes, we offer. Yes. It's not required, but of our first year students, about 97% of them live on campus.
Right. And also, those are easily available, or there is I mean, everybody is jostling for space. What is the scenario like?
Yes, I would It's easily available the first year because we guarantee our students housing the first year, and we are in the process of building a significant amount of additional housing, and so it's not guaranteed for the second year. And so some students, though, if they apply on time and they're flexible with housing, many students get housing the second year as well. And yet, even this young woman that I keep referring to that started in this winter program, she's already met many friends and wants to live off campus when she starts back in the fall. So really, we're meeting the students where their needs are is really our goal. So some want to be on campus and some want to be off campus.
Do you think the off-campus options are affordable?
Affordability is a very relative term, my friend. Often students are living together to make it affordable. And so, as you know, California is not an inexpensive state. And so often what students do is, they live with, a group of students so that it is much more affordable. But yes, it is not an inexpensive housing market. How's that?
Yeah. So, Michelle, with the F1 visa process always under scrutiny and post-work study routes shrinking in, almost every country, especially the UK and US also, how is UC Santa Cruz making it a stable, reassuring option for students amid this global uncertainty? For international students, I mean.
No, and this is real, and I appreciate the question. I was even recently this spring in, I think Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore, meeting with students and families with our staff as well. And this was a huge question. And so we try to share what we know, and our staff will meet with students, ideally in their home country, online, on campus. We're going to try to meet them wherever they can and make sure to reassure them with what we can do and what we are aware of. And so our campus has a long history of being very student centric, providing, a high quality education amidst changes. We see changes constantly, but really trying to make ourselves available to talk with students and families about what's happening on the ground, and our unwavering commitment to make sure that they know we're going to do our very best to provide the opportunities that are really the hallmark of UC Santa Cruz.
Right. So now let's talk about the recent development on the social media account. You know, students have been asked to keep their social media accounts public. So what would be your advice to incoming international students? How can they ensure their online presence doesn't raise any red flag? What would be the top, say, 3 to 5 tips for them to make sure that their digital footprint doesn't go against them?
Yeah, I think one of the pieces of advice I might have is, even irregardless of what's happening with the visas, I think every young person, every older person, including myself, we all need to be aware of what we post on social media because it stays with us for a lifetime. So that's one of my first messages, is one should always be very cognizant and self-aware of what they're posting, because you don't know. There's many people that are viewing your content. You're creating your own brand, is what I remind people of. And so whether it's going into work, whether it's going to get your visa, so I think just being really conscientious of what you choose to post, I think, is kind of the advice that I give. I feel that I don't have the expertise to provide more insight than that, because I don't know what's exactly happening on the ground related to getting the visa during that time period. But I think it's, in general, a good piece of advice to always be aware and of what you choose to post. Does that make sense?
Honestly, Michelle, social media has been used as a platform to exchange ideas and views and all of that. So it was also about freedom of
Yes.
thought and expression. But
Absolutely.
now, with the current scenario being so tense and complicated, to say the least,
Yeah.
you know, do you think this is also a curb of freedom if we
Yes.
have to be so conscious? And normally, people don't see their social media handles as their, branding tools.
Right.
So, uh,
Well, and I
so
also think students should be authentically who they are. But again, I think that that's the balance that you're going to choose. And again, I think that we all learned, even our generation, growing up, like, be careful what you post, because people, they make judgments about you regardless if you're in person or if it's on your social media. And sometimes it's a lot easier to post, I think, on social media than other types of sharing perspectives. But I do want students to also be their authentic selves. So there's that balance that I think you have to find related to any any social media presence and for future references.
Anything that you would like to say specifically about what not to post for students, international students especially?
I don't feel I have the expertise in guiding your your population in that area. Yeah,
Oh,
I really don't, and it
okay.
changes, right? Over time, and so, and I think anything, right? I don't think any individual wants I think any of us, so international students or others, I think if you're threatening harm on any other population, like that is a concern on any level, whether it was our current students or, family members or whomever. So I think general social media etiquette would apply to the same area.
Right. So, in times of these sudden policy changes like travel bans or scrutiny of OPT, how does UC Santa Cruz advocate for its international students while staying within the lines of federal compliance? And what should
Yeah.
prospective students know about the kind of institutional support that they can expect? This is very important
Yeah,
for them to know what
it
kind of
is.
support they are likely to get.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say likely to get the type of support they will get. Our campus has been and remains incredibly committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and international students are very much a part of that. Our campus is better because we have international students on our campus. Our learning communities are better. Our living communities are rich. We want students from all over to have experiences like this is a global world that we live in. And so our students from California benefit, our students from New York, everybody benefits by having these shared experiences together. And so we remain today, have been, and will continue to be exceptionally committed. That support isn't just coming from our International Student Services and Scholars Office, it's coming from the colleges, the academic departments. Many of our faculty have international backgrounds or have studied internationally, a lot of our staff across campus. And so you don't have to be in the international office. You find staff everywhere who've had international experiences and are exceptionally committed to our students and their success.
So, what
And then
kind
we
of support,
advocate.
if you could, elaborate a bit on what kind of support, in under what situations could they could they seek out for?
Yeah, definitely. And even, when things were uncertain, definitely one of the first areas that students residential college is one of the first lines of support for students. However, international, when it comes to immigration and visa status, that's absolutely going to be the international, like our global engagement, the division of global engagement is the area that really ensures that students are staying in compliance and in status. And whether that's as they transition to OPT, so that is an office. And even this is a good example. We had two of our recent graduates join us in Mumbai, and one of them also joined in Delhi. And they're like, whatever you do, you change your courses, you travel, you go talk to your international advisor. Like, whatever you do, make sure you're updating them on what your plans are. And so I think that, that's something that's really critical. And I loved it when we hear the advice directly from our alumni, literally who just graduated in the last year. And so I think that that is really critical, but also it could be emotional, right? Let's say a student needs counseling and psychological services because the world around us is pretty uncertain right now and every day kind of increasingly so. And so that may be a referral even to our counseling and psychological services. So there's a wide array of student support services on our campus. And so, and then at, my level, also at the chancellor's level, and then we have system-wide federal government relations, we have state government relations, and so we have staff that are advocating at the local, the state, and the national levels as well. And we have one of the things I love, and one of our, many of our international students have served. We have an academic senate committee on international education. And so our faculty
Okay.
literally serve on the committee, and our students serve on the committee with the faculty members. So they have a strong voice. I'm able to mentor one of our students from Delhi and connected him with our federal government relations. And, he was writing letters as well. So we will advocate, as leadership on campus, as faculty, but we also will help facilitate that advocacy with our students.
Is there any legal support service available on campus?
Yes, we do. Yes, we have that available as well. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I would have to look specifically. I know that, again, the international office does a great job. And again, depending on the situation, we're going to rally and pull the services together. And our Dean of Students office, he's Garrett Nyman, he's very involved with all kinds of student, immigration issues and the support that's available for them.
Now, this is a very critical question. UCSC faculty and students joined the Stand Up for Science rally after DEI-linked research projects were slashed. Reports say that University of California, Santa Cruz lost about 6 million across 10 NIH grants. Is that true?
I know that we were impacted, and this is an area that I feel, again, is a little bit outside of my area of expertise. I know we were impacted. We have a website. Our Office of Research has a great overview of the everything that's happening. It was last updated June 23rd, which was just yesterday, our time. And so I haven't tallied all of them or seen the latest tallies, but yes, it is impacting our campus. And yes, our faculty.
Your genomics department also has a lot of DEI-linked projects, research projects, right?
Yep.
The genomics department.
NIH and National Science Foundation as well, the NSF. And so our campus is ensuring that we are in compliance with, we have a certification that we have to go through. And in the past, it was on the programs themselves. Now it's on the entire campus. And so there are definitely, every effort to ensure that we are in full compliance, because we do not want to jeopardize this critical research that benefits all of humanity. And so our Office of Research.
So how are you balancing? What is the balancing act?
Yeah, it's, you want to know that you stick to your values. And a lot of the balancing act that we've seen, and we've had a Prop 209 was a law within the state of California for many years. And so other states may not have had this, but we've been in compliance with that. And yet some of the items now, the interpretations are changing, is my understanding of some of these. And so we want to really be focused on what we can do and what we can't do. And a lot of our DEI efforts will continue. And one of the things that we've always done, and we're making really clear, is we have a lot of special programs, but they're available to all students on campus, or any student on campus. So while a program may focus on African American students or international students or our LGBTQ students, every student is welcome in that community and in that space. And so that's one of the things that we're really, really focused on. And we are a Hispanic serving institution. We're proud to be a Hispanic serving institution, as well as an Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution. We're proud to see, our international numbers have grown over the last, 10 years. And so we want to be unapologetic when it comes to our values.
So that's the standpoint, right? Like my next question was this: what's UCSC Santa Cruz's current position on the federal government's rollback of DEI-linked programs? Has it impacted how you shape academic or community life on campus? The standpoint, that's what I want to know. Standpoint of UCSC Santa Cruz.
We've absolutely had a lot of discussions. One of the things you have to think about is, again, California as a state had this requirement before, a lot of the interpretations at the federal level. And so it's really challenging. I'll be really clear, and this might be some of my own personal and professional opinions both. DEI adds great value, and diversity is an incredible strength that we have as California, we have as the US. And so for many of us, it's heartbreaking to see what I would call a misunderstanding of the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so my 31-year career has been, the foundation has been, I call it equity first and then diversity and inclusion, because you can't have diversity if you don't have equity, is my perspective. Right. So this is something that our campus will continue to be really as a core value that we have, and get cognizant, right? We want to be in compliance. We want to be overtly in compliance with what we're doing. And yet we will continue to recruit students of all socioeconomic backgrounds, right? Of all ethnic backgrounds, of all different perspectives, religious.
That's great to hear. That's very reassuring,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So thank you for asking. Yes, but it's heartbreaking for many of us. And I would call it the misunderstanding of the value and what it truly means.
Right, right. So, for international students arriving today in this scenario, especially those who rely on mentorship and inclusive networks, what
Mhm.
practical advice would you give on finding DI linked support? And such programs are I mean, when such programs are increasingly under threat.
Yeah. I think talk to, it starts even most locally if they're living on campus, their resident advisors, talking with their academic advisors, talking with international. If they have an area of interest, it is going to be available on campus somewhere. And if not, you create it. And so again, the big caveat, which is we've operated under this for many years, is all students are included. So if you have any kind of club or organization or Indian Student Association, right, that is alive and well, and all students are welcome. And so, of course, it's primarily Indian students, and you're celebrating your culture, you're sharing your culture, you're creating community. Our Chinese students have a
Absolutely.
phenomenal Chinese, New Year's celebration, and everybody learns from their programming. And so that's really it. You will find the different support networks. You just simply need to ask, and people will help guide you. And if there's something, again, you're super interested in that's not available, we can help you create that.
So that brings me to the last question of this very, very, I would say, interesting conversation. Meaningful, of course, it is, and it's very interesting too. And I'm very
Mhm.
happy about UC Santa Cruz's stand about DEI. Yeah. So the last question: despite the policy landscape the shift in this landscape, what do you believe still makes US a uniquely rewarding destination for international students today? I mean, factor in all the changes, the ROI versus the risks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
what
I
makes
think
US a
and it's
very
not even, I love the question, and I'm not going to share what I think. It's kind of what I know, and my feedback comes from the students themselves. It comes from the families, and it comes from the educators who are really learning about all the different colleges and universities so that they can best guide and counsel students in their career as well as their educational goals. But what I hear over and over again is that the liberal arts degree in the US is still very distinctive. And I think when you're from the US, you take these things for granted. And once I started traveling to India and China, I even gained a deeper appreciation. And what a lot of people don't realize is that even a computer science major has a liberal arts degree, right? And so our science students are required to take art and writing. Our artists and our writers are required to take math and science. So this type of education is really second to none when you also add on the really the experiential opportunities in research, in internships, and the flexibility. So much of our degree programs, students get to shape. They have a lot of choice and a lot of flexibility to design that full 4-year program, right? Of the areas that really they're most interested in. And so our general education, right? You have certain requirements, but you get to choose from hundreds of different classes. Majors have certain courses that are required, but you also get to specialize and have flexibility in those options. And then it really goes without saying for us being in California, it is an amazing state. It is a most stunning environment to really have this type of US education experience. And then that opportunity for that optional practical training or the OPT STEM as well, getting that work experience and then being able to bring those skills back home are exceptionally valuable. And then, of course, student life at a USC institution also is pretty exciting for a lot of families. And
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
it is the independence too that
The
students.
emotional ROI, you mean to say, is,
Exactly. It's phenomenal. And I can't tell you enough that, the students that I am in close contact with, I still visit their families when I go back to India. And it's, and I love it when students find the place that is best for them, right? And like in our case, people love the serenity of Santa Cruz. We're by the ocean, we're in the redwoods, but you've got the Silicon Valley, like 40 minutes away. And so you have access to these amazing opportunities, or Southern California, a lot of the film industry and creative endeavors. And so it's, I think this magical combination is what I describe it of all of these. But I think until I was on the ground more often, that the type of education that we take for granted, right? This is what we know in the US. And so the combination, and the students and families, I think they see the value that students get and being in a really diverse environment. I think that's something that they really appreciate as well. And California, I think, is, one of the most diverse areas in the country. And so sitting and being in classrooms with students literally from, I think currently we had about 85 different countries represented, primarily California for the undergrads, but also, probably 40 different states represented. And the residential community is just a phenomenal experience for young people. So they're getting independence within the safety net and this remarkable high quality academic experience.
Absolutely. Michelle, thanks a lot for your time and your inputs and your views and everything. This interview must be very reassuring for international
I
students in
hope
the current
so. I hope
scenario.
so. Don't ever give up. And one of our students, if I can add at the end, the Rajshri, the young woman I was sharing with you, her first visa interview was denied. She stuck with it. She was heartbroken, of course, went back, got it approved. And if this has been your dream, you stick with it.